We're about ready to get rocking and rolling. Come on up to the front center if you can. Plenty of room up here. A lot more fun. Front row seats available. Same price as back row. No back row Baptist allowed. You ever thought about that? Why do we pay so much for front row concert tickets, but then we sit at the back row when it's free? Huh? Just, musings. We need to just pull out all the chairs on the back row. Yule Smith, I can't believe you're on the back. You're not even an IFPG member, man. You're out. Yes, right. We got New Orleans guy in that red jacket back there with the white hat on. You gotta watch out.
Hello, testing.
The hardcores are up front. Oh, now we can start. Jonathan's here. You really got to be interested in this topic to be here. Appreciate y'all being here.
Jonathan. I'm your backup.
All right, we'll start when Hal sits down. Come on, Hal. We're ready for you. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to jump in, grab some coffee. No sleeping allowed during this panel. This is the finishing strong session. We're going to learn how to do it on our own. And, well, this is the age of social media. We've been talking a lot about it, so guess what we're going to do? A little video. Big surprise. Hey, gang, Red Boswell with IPG and Franchise Wire at the closing session of Franchise Springboard in Philadelphia. The hardcores are left. 600 or 700 were here. Now we got the final 200. Seriously interested in going it alone. How to become a household name without taking outside investment. We got a rock star panel. I don't know if it's the best panel in the world, but there's never been one better, I'll tell you that. We got Bubba Coos Burritos. We got Paul, Steven with HotWorks. I'm looking right at the camera here. We got Johnny Franchise stepping in, and with Sport Clips and a bunch of others. The one and only Jonathan with OxyFresh. Gonna rock it, and these guys know it. Now, it was Beauty and the Beast. We had the Beauty with Shane Evans. Shane has laryngitis, so you just get the Beast today. I hope that's okay. But let's have some fun, learn, grow, connect as always, make a difference in this world. Boom. Okay. I'll tag you all on LinkedIn later. Glad you're here. We're going to learn. So before we introduce each other, I'm curious, raise your hands if you are a franchisor, owner, founder, you own a franchisor. Raise your hand high. A good amount of the room, a good half of the room. Okay. If you are that person that just raised your hand, if you have taken on investment from outside parties, raise your hand. About 3 or 7. Okay, so not many. Most of you are considering it. It's a viable path. It can be a very profitable and successful path, or it can be a nightmare. Kind of like marriage, Ron, right? I mean, it's like it could be a blessing, it could be a curse. You got to make the right decision, sort of like bringing on new franchisees. Amen? Oh, thank you. I didn't hear a single amen. Okay. All right, there we go. Where's the Baptist in the room? Okay, let's introduce ourselves. We're going to start right here. Paul, bring it on.
Hey, thanks, Red. Appreciate that. My name is Paul Altiero. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a concept called Bubba Coos Burritos. 130 units strong with about another 200 to open. I've been in business for about 17 years out of Wall, New Jersey, and just trucking along. Total bootstrapping concept. No outside financing. I guess we'll get into that, but happy to say that we're thriving. So, awesome.
That was a perfect intro. So we're going to do name, company, where you're located, and kind of a 30-second life story, in franchising, where you came from, where you're at. Steven, you got a great one.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that, and it's nice to be here. We've been bootstrapping since the beginning with HotWorks. 7.5 years ago, we began that brand with one location in Oxford, Mississippi. So I'm going to say howdy-toddy to that. opened there, I guess, because that's where I went to college. So, and it turned out to be a really great location, and I would say that it's very important to have a home run with that first one. So we're an infrared fitness studio, first of its kind, and we're about to open our 700th location this month.
Woo! John Francis, also called Johnny Franchise, stepped in at the last moment to fill in the very awesome shoes of Shane Evans. John, thanks for jumping in here. Give us a little intro.
Sure. Thanks, Red. My name's John Francis. I'm going to be here representing Sport Clips Haircuts. I serve on their board of directors for the last 15 years. And they started in Georgetown, Texas, 30 years this year. There are about 1,950 locations.
Anyone not heard of Sport Clips? Talk about household names. Did you raise your hand? You hadn't had a haircut in a while,
needs
so
a
I
haircut.
get it. Nice. Jonathan.
All right. My name is Jonathan Barnett. I am the founder and CEO of OxyFresh Carpet Cleaning. Started it in 2006 in my college dorm room with some student loan money. Had a green carpet, orange countertops, and an attic fan. So I know what it's like to start from the beginning, and I'm excited to share my experiences. We have close to 500 locations, or over 500, I'm not sure at the moment, right around there, and yeah, so excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Gang, we had, when we were talking about this panel, got one simple rule with these rock stars. We all get paid to talk for a living, don't we? And we kind of like to hear our own voice. I'm guilty of that. So we're going to keep our messages short, no monologues. We're going to get a lot covered, give you a lot of content, keep you awake even, maybe. Sean, I'm watching you, okay? I know you had a big lunch. So jumping right into it. One nugget, we're going to start on the end, Jonathan. A nugget around, there's two pieces here, by the way. We're going to hit the second piece first. The title is Becoming a Household Name Without Investors. Okay, let's talk without investors first. How do you do it? How did you do it? Any piece, one nugget around growing into that household name without taking outside investment?
Well, one advantage of not having the investors is we can make, you guys in the room, we can all make decisions fast. So in the very beginning, I mean, this is before I was married and had 6 kids, I put all the money, all of the profits went right back in. So I put it all back in and into things that would grow the business. And so I was super aggressive with putting all the profits right back in to things that would grow the business. You know, with investors, they're going to be focused on EBITDA and stuff, and all that's important. But in our stages, I'm looking at growth, and some things you're gonna. It's not always about investing in the shiny buttons, the stuff that looks cool, but it's the stuff that's going to help you add units. It's going to be the stuff that helps your franchisees book more jobs, retain more customers. So I would say, in the beginning, put it all back in, and also I would say it's been big for us is try to keep as many of your expenses variable as you can instead of get fixed expenses. For example, in the beginning, I know it sounds crazy, but all my employees in the beginning, in the very, very beginning, were paid straight commission. So even my ops team, they got paid whenever we sold a franchise. Or the call center reps, they got paid as every job they booked. Or the technicians, straight commission on any of the jobs that now, as your company grows, you take care of your people and you give a base plus commission. But in the beginning, if the company didn't bring in money, they didn't get money. So I know that sounds hard to hear and think, but I was also 26, so I had a lot of young friends that were willing to do that. But I would say keep your expenses variable as you can, and not, you don't have to get the big hitter people out there. That you can have a culture of people that are young, that want to grow with the company, and take with the vision of you'll take care of them later.
Jonathan, they literally had no base salary.
In the very beginning.
Wow.
I
That's
mean,
strong.
Yeah. Yeah, like
they really bought into your
my
vision.
sales guys were on 22% commission straight, and then technicians in the field, they were on about 25% of that, and then the call center reps, inbound calls, they were getting up every time they booked a job, they got something. There were some base salary things, but it was very minimal. Wow. So,
Talk about doing it. I mean, that's a fantastic bit of advice right there.
Yeah.
Your bucket's full, you can leave now. I mean, right? That was terrific. Johnny, hold on a sec. I did not introduce myself. I'm Red Boswell, president of one of the franchise consulting or broker groups. The industry calls us brokers. We prefer consultant, advisor, matchmaker, or coach, but we'll just call it broker to make it clear, since there are other types of consultants out there. I've been in this role about 6 years. Before that, I was Global Chief Development Officer for a brand. Before that, I was Chief Development Officer for North America and the Western Hemisphere for a brand. And then before that, just did a whole bunch of consulting for franchising. And then before that, I was Azor. So I founded a franchisor in the home services mobile space, lower investment. In about 3.5 years, I built it up from just the local location to 148 territories in 28 states with 64 Zs. And I did it without outside investment. So love this topic. It's an important one, and there's so many pros and cons on both sides. So we're going to learn more about that now. John?
Well, I'm just to be clear, I'm not the founder of Sport Clips, so I'm representing the founder. Gordon Logan is the founder of Sport Clips. Fantastic guy. If you haven't met him, if you see him, you'll know he's usually wearing a big cowboy hat. I would speculate, if Gordon was here answering this question, or if I'm answering on his behalf, is he was very well prepared. He's a very smart guy. He's a CPA, MBA from Wharton. He was an Air Force pilot. I mean, very capable, very thoughtful, very deliberate in his planning before he launched his franchise. So he knew what he was doing, and he allocated his funds, his limited resources. He didn't come from a lot of money. He didn't start with a big bucket of cash, but he knew exactly what he was going to do, and he was very deliberate in his decisions, and he was always playing the long game, always thinking about long term. I showed up on his board of directors, so I would say he's had great advice and great people holding the team accountable, and we've been saying no to private equity forever. They stopped asking at a certain level because we just said no thank you, not interested. So I would say deliberate and careful long-range plan.
Nice. Gordon is a great guy, and he will talk to you all day if you want. So if you see a old fellow with a cowboy hat, he's fantastic, so wise. In 2007, I was at an IFA CEO retreat, about 70 CEOs. I get there early. I'm super excited. I'm a little bit younger then, and sat at a table, and I'm the first guy in the room just waiting to, what can I learn? And he sits down at the table with me. So he's sitting there, and he's like, Red, what's on your mind? He knew my name. I mean, I didn't even know his name. I was embarrassed, And I said, man, I'm struggling with this, and I tell him this complicated issue I had, and he goes, well, why don't you do this? 10 seconds later, I'm like, God, I'm ready to go home. This is so good, He gave me the whole answer right there. So y'all probably can all relate to this at this event, right? You're just getting so much free, awesome advice. Steven, speaking of awesome advice.
Yeah, thinking about this topic and trying to come up with the one thing that maybe is the most important thing that we've done at HotWorks to create cash flow, right? And you want your staff to be at the highest possible level of productivity all the time, right? And that's tricky. If somebody ever tells you need to hire ahead of the growth curve, move on down the line, okay? That to me is one of the worst pieces of advice that you can take. I feel that you need to hire just before and just in time, right? Because if you wait until somebody's literally screaming about, an executive is always going to say, hey, we need a person to do this. I'm like, no, you don't. You need to go find some software to do that. You need to figure out how to do it, or you need to just add it to your plate, right? So I really feel that the thing that has helped us be the most productive is that we wait until we have absolute clarity of what a new role should look like. And you can't really have that if you're hiring ahead of the growth curve, right? So I would say that, to me, would be the most important thing, advice I could give that's helped us on our growth curve, is to just hire just in time and with absolute clarity of job description.
And you save some money in doing it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So you co-founded HotWorks, but prior to that, Planet Beach
We had Planet Beach, a very tough industry, started in the tanning industry. When that industry started to crater because of the skincare Achilles heel, the industry regulations, they came in with a 10% excise tax on the product in 2010, and it lost about 80% of the industry. That event, and when you're in an industry like that, will force you to really get creative, right? And so the result of that is we had to invent our way out of it, and that's what happened. We came up with a sauna for 3 people to work out in, and that's a long story how it got to HotWorks, but we were able to then launch that. In the sauna itself, we designed it, we manufactured it overseas, and we found a manufacturer that did all the engineering for us. So if you don't have the money, but you have a great idea and you need something done, you can find a way to get it done. And that's what we did. So it took us about 9 months to get that thing to market. We went through a name change, finally got HotWorks, and then decided, you know what, this thing needs to be its own franchise. So in the fall of 2016, got a lease, opened up the next spring in 2017, and then we had that home run. We paid a lot of attention to getting the concept right, because you want something that you can leverage into delighting the customer over and over all the time. And if you have that tool to work with, then you can really turn it into profitability of your franchisees. That's one more thing I would say. You got to focus on the profitability of your franchisees. That's why we exist.
Unit level economics, UEL, but something like that. Awesome, appreciate it. And a quick nugget on that, Planet Beach, did you take outside investment on that model?
No, the only investment we've ever, or big money, I guess you say, we've ever done was we did a $2 million loan at one point. But that wasn't private equity or anything.
No equity was given. It was just
that was an SBA
personal
loan,
right?
For our franchisor side.
Put some pressure on you.
Yeah, it did.
Definitely, but you gave nothing away. Interesting. Before we're going to hit Paul, just be thinking, guys. We're going to pivot in a moment and talk becoming a household name. And we're going to go back and forth, investment, household name, but we're going to hit household name first. Paul, what's your nugget?
Awesome. Yeah, well, I don't want to be a broken record. I think these gentlemen have touched on some awesome things. But, I think obviously to be a household name, it's obviously through scale. You have to have so many restaurants to really become familiar. You need good market penetration, and you need a great reputation. I think culture is huge too. And one of the things that we've always done, it's going to sound extremely quintessential, but, when we started the brand in 2008 with my partner and I, we were really, really, really big on community. And I know, again, that's so quintessential. It's almost par for the course nowadays with the business. You have to be involved in your community. You have to be involved in this. But we were just innately like that right from the beginning. And that was huge. I mean, huge. I mean, even to this day, people still talk about, what we've done for communities, what we've done for schools, what we've done for organizations and towns. And we really try to, teach our franchisees that as part of our training. So on the other side of it, the economics, we, the concept was started with a $40,000 home equity loan, my home equity loan. And yeah, I mean, we were approached probably about half a dozen times by different companies, investors that wanted to grow our company fast. And, we never kind of drank the Kool-Aid. We just stayed the course. And it's been slow and steady. There's some guys up here, 700 units is unbelievable. I mean, we're at 130, and, we're okay with opening up 30 to 40 units a year. Again, a slow and steady wins the race. That's worked for us, and it continues to work for us. And people seem to really appreciate that, especially our staying power.
30 or 40 openings a year is slow and steady. I like that. Hey, anybody else want some slow and steady? Bring it on, right? A lot of Zors are like, give me 3 or 4, come on. I'll take the slow and steady. When I was a Zor, I did not take private equity or an outside investors, but I had a very profitable local business that was the model for the rest of the program. And so when I began looking at franchising around 02, 03, it was grossing 400, netting close to 200. Started a 3-year process of getting everything in order to ultimately sell franchises, and by the time we started selling franchises, it was about double that, more like 800 or 900, and then 400 at the bottom line. I'm living on 80 to 120 during the next couple of years, and putting everything else, just like Jonathan said, everything else into it. And I had 3 kids at the time and a wife and all that, and so without a job on her side. So other than she was a mom, so that's a big job. Okay, don't hurt me. She had a job as a mom, but it was just sacrifice within reason, and put everything back in and build it and build it and build it. And so that's how we did it. I held on to when you become a franchisor, it's like the Bible says, when you get married, you leave the mom and dad and you cleave to the spouse. You are no longer XYZ, whatever you run your business. You are a franchisor. And so I had to absorb that real quick and realize I'm hiring somebody to run that business. He's still going to report to me. I'm going to check it. I'm going to watch the metrics and numbers, all that. But my love is no longer that. I am leaving that, mostly emotionally, time, etc., and going right here all day, all the time. This is it. This is way bigger potential. This is my new love. You got to take that philosophy. You can't serve 2 masters. And so I did that and ultimately held on to that business, kept putting all the extra cash back into the Zor until the Zor reached royalty sustainability. And once the Zor reached royalty sustainability without having to sell a franchise, because I've been selling 3 franchises a month for 3.5 years, that's giving me some cash flow. But if I never sold another franchise, I could still keep my call center, my billing center, my collection center, my routing center. We did it a ton for the Z, very high overhead for that level of business, especially back then. And that's what we did. So later on down the road, sold the local business. And then the next chapter of the book is when the Great Recession hits and you lose it all. But in the meantime, the theory worked very, very well in reality until the banks closed. But let's go back to the end here. Jonathan, start with you again. Flipping the coin now, becoming a household name.
So one thing that I think that we try to do from the beginning, from our standpoint, and I think Red always does it as well too. I don't know if you guys have read the book The Purple Cow, but you're driving down the road and you see these cows on the road. No, you don't, because they're invisible, because they're all the same. But if there's a purple one, it would stand out. So we always wanted to separate there's so many carpet cleaning companies out there. What's different between us and someone else? So our differentiator was we use 2 gallons of water to clean a house. Our competition uses 40. We educate the customers on that. That's our Purple Cow. We dries in an hour, not a day. So whatever that is for you guys, even our marketing, like when we go to conventions, you'll see some of my guys, they're always wearing track suits to just be different and not blend in and be the same. So you got to find something about your brand that makes you a wow factor, that really makes you stand apart, even if it's a little bit weird or something, but just so they don't forget you. So I would say that Purple Cow book's a good one. Another thing, we're talking about slow and steady, your Net Promoter Score. That shows you if you're not looking at that, you don't know. You're not going to build a sustainable model if your brand is having to get one-time customers and that works. You need the repeat customers. So your NPS score is going to tell you that. And then you got to figure out ways to retarget those customers right away so that your competition doesn't take them. And my last advice for this, being a household name in the beginning, especially without taking taking investment money, is you don't have to say yes to every new franchisee that wants to buy. I would say award them, like they say, don't sell them, because the unit economics is going to be really important, way more important. You don't have to sell a whole bunch, but be very selective and make sure the locations you add are going to be high performers, because that will really, when we're talking about the long roads, the fast road, that is something I wish I could go back and make a little bit of changes to.
Seth Godin wrote that book. It's a great book. It's timeless, too. Came out over a decade ago. Something that Jonathan didn't say, I heard him speak a good 10 or more years ago at IFA, Absolutely. You know, the best genius is simplicity, making simple genius pivots and moves. And Jonathan did it with his name. Can we tell about that? Look at that. See, OxyFresh, everybody in here is like, oh, I know OxyFresh. That's the guy that does a 30-minute infomercial from Australia. Is that y'all's brand?
No. Yeah. So that's a good one, Red. That's a real thing. So, it doesn't have to be we call it's piggyback marketing, where if someone sees your name or it's your logo or it's your colors, it's something that you're piggybacking off of something that they already trust and feel. So, there's a lot of great oxygenated products out there. OxyClean's one of them. We're not
OxyClean.
OxyClean. We're OxyFresh. We're a service, not a product, and our name is different. But people feel with those Billy Mays commercials back in the day, they feel like they know that oxygenated cleaning sodium percarbonate. They don't know the technology behind it, but it works. And so that did give us an advantage. People, they feel like they already kind of knew us. So it doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be the name. It could be something that makes them feel that you're piggybacking off of something else that they already trust.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I mean,
Sports clips. Everyone already likes sports, right? So then you already feel something, and
tens of millions of dollars of value right there. Piggyback marketing. No pride. Hey, it's smart. It's genius. Love it. Sport Clips, Johnny?
Yeah, what I will share about Sport Clips, I think what makes their brand a household namer, the strategies they use, there's a couple of things. Number one, it's a very focused brand. Men and boys is haircuts, and that's it. No perms, no colors, no nothing. And they do it well. They're very good at it. They're very focused. Lots of training. And if you haven't tried the MVP with the hot towel treatment, go in. You're going to love it. It's fabulous. So product and service focused, but with a differentiation.
You brought coupons or gift cards for us?
I don't have any with me, no, sorry. But anyway, focus the concept, no deviation. They've been tempted and teased and taunted at times, but no, we're totally focused. They know their business and they stick to it. Number two, they use an area developer model, which is an interesting approach. I've been an area developer, not for Sport Clips, but in other brands. Has its advantages and disadvantages. I say it's like nitroglycerin. It's dangerous. If you mishandle it, it can blow up in your face. If you handle it properly, you can blow a hole through a mountain. I mean, you can do some great things with area development if it's structured well. So they did that, and it worked very well. The other thing Sport Clips has done is they never, when they develop a market, they do what I would call cluster. Right? They build a lot of stores in one city before they start spreading out all over. So it was a intentional strategy because all that marketing, all that advertising, boots on the ground, pre-opening promotions, they would hand out coupons that looked like tickets to a baseball game, right? And they would dump a ton of coupons in the marketplace before the salon opened.
How would they open a bunch of locations in one marketplace? Is this a multi-unit sell?
Yeah.
Like
Multi-unit strategy, not right away though. I mean, that kind of came when I showed up. That
so,
was one of the,
Mr.
one of the
Buyer,
things
you're the
I
first
helped with.
one in the Dallas Metroplex. We're not going to allow you to open until we have 10 more buyers? No.
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. I guess the
They
point
really flooded it?
they would dominate a market.
Flood the market with marketing towards the Z.
Yes.
Get those Zs
and
in
towards
a
the
short-
customers.
And then get the customers.
And then get customers.
Yeah.
So they would spend a lot of money on grand opening. I mean, real serious budget because they wanted to open with a big bang. And it created a lot of momentum in those markets. One more thing is they never had mixed or blended markets where you have corporate stores and franchisee stores. They separate. They don't ever want to compete with a franchisee for real estate, for hairstylists, for everything else. So if it's a corporate market, they own the whole market. If it's a franchisee market, they leave it as a franchisee market. There may be multiple franchisees in a market, but I think that's a pretty smart strategy. Because corporate can do a lot of good and corporate can cause a lot of frustration. And if you're competing with your franchisees for staff or locations, that gets complicated.
John talked briefly, we're not here to talk about area reps and such, but there's the area developer, area rep, regional developer. In my mind, those are all the three the same person, just different names for it, just like I gave you 5 names for broker a while ago. Master is a different level. I don't know that I've ever met a Zor who was glad they sold multiple masters in the United States when that Zor is based in the United States. Master really takes it to another level. Be very, very, very cautious if you pursue a master licensing agreement within the country you're already in. But the area rep, regional developer model can be very lucrative for you when done right. So look into that more. It can be pretty cool. Short term, especially when you're struggling to keep everything going with the finances.
I just want to follow up on that. They call it area developer in their brand. It's different names, like you say, different things. It was working, but it wasn't working great. And we focused on that at the board level and kind of tweaked the model, I guess, and really provided more structure and a lot of accountability for those area developers. I think when I first showed up, and the brand was already 15 years old, and there were about 35 area developers all over the country, and some were successful and some were not successful. And so we focused in on that piece of the puzzle and kind of lit the fire and held these guys accountable, helped them really develop and build their plans, execute their plans. The number of AEDs consolidated, but the performance of that segment exploded. So getting the right people in the right place with the right structure and accountability made a huge impact.
It's similar to why we franchise, using other people's time, money, and effort, right? That's a good bit of why you franchise. Same thing with your development strategy around selling or awarding franchises, using other people's time, money, and effort to help you with that. It can be good or bad, just like awarding franchises, so you got to be careful, do it right, have a lot of checks and balances in place and accountabilities, and realize you're going to have to pull it back on occasion and take it away from them if they're not meeting a reasonable development strategy. Stephen?
Yeah, I think the best thing we ever did for HotWorks, maybe the one best decision that I've ever made as a CEO, was in the beginning, we were writing the franchise agreement. I made the decision that for this brand, we are not going to have a national marketing fund.
National Marketing Fund?
No national marketing fund. We don't collect a percentage. We have a flat royalty, but we don't collect any money for marketing and advertising whatsoever.
Did you say you have a flat royalty also?
We do, but here's what we did do. We kept control of the advertising and required a certain amount of advertising spend in their own market for their own store. And it's worked beautifully. It ensures that every dime that they spend for advertising is spent for their benefit. And if it's done right, and I feel like we've done a good job with it, it will look like a national advertising campaign to the customers out there, right? So you can structure this in your franchise agreement. If you guys want to reach out to me, I'm happy to give you our language that we used. And I will tell you, if you have the opportunity, if you're in the early stages and you can do this, I would give it great consideration to put it and structure it that way in your franchise agreements. And I think you'll find that you'll get rid of a point of contention and possibly save yourself a couple of lawsuits down the road, because you'll wind up with better marketing. And since the question is how do you build a household name, I think this is a path to get there.
For clarity, fascinating. You kept control of the marketing, but you don't have a national ad fund or marketing fund. So you're just removing the step where they give you the money and you invest it. However, you're still controlling how they invest it.
That's correct.
Okay, so they're paying the third-party marketing company direct. You're out of it, other than directing them what to do, how to do it, when to do it, how much to do it. You're just not touching the money part.
Yeah, and we manage and hold accountable all the agencies that we work with. I personally meet with them and our VP of marketing every week to ensure that our cost per leads are where they should be on behalf for our franchisees. So it's been a partnership. I mean, franchising is partnership. I'm a guy that learned the lesson of viewing a franchisee as a customer, big mistake. Franchisee is a partner, and I look at it like the franchisors, the coaching staff, the franchisees are the players, and the customers are the fans. We're in business together as a team to make sure that the one true customer, the end user, stays in a state of bliss, right? So that's a nugget that was from the School of Hard Knocks for me. So that's something to consider as well, and how the paradigm you use with your franchisees. But that one thing in terms of marketing has worked beautifully for us.
A tiny pivot there. Yeah, go for it.
Can I ask him a couple questions? on that?
Please.
So in our franchise agreement, we have the ability to make them spend X amount, right? And approve marketing. So technically, we could probably do something like that. In my experience, we have approved vendors, which we recommend them do. But when we've forced them to do a certain vendor, and that vendor thing didn't work out because they know the franchisees have to use them, so they lose a little bit of that. They don't have to work for it. We had some bad experiences with that. So we've had it where we have approved vendors and maybe a couple in the same space, so it gives the franchisees, they feel like they have a choice, but then they also, we vetted them so we know. But I'm just curious, have you ever had, what do you do if this approved vendor that you're making them spend the money on, what if they stop? They have the whole book of business, so you have some leverage there, but what if your franchisees feel like it isn't working for them, even though some markets might, some might won't, and they can't leave that, and they want to try a different vendor?
Yeah, we use 3 vendors now, so there is choice, but they all 3 operate on the same required metrics that we look at, right?
So they do feel like they have a choice.
They're not at a certain cost per lead on average, and we look at all the numbers. We get everything. We know exactly how much money our franchisees are spending. In our contract, we require a 10% ad spend of their revenue.
Okay.
In their market. Their dollars spent on their store, but managed by us and controlled by us, right? So, but we do have choice now. We started out with 1, and then we added another, and now we've added a 3rd, and we may even add a 4th. But all of those agencies are required to target a certain level of cost per lead, and then we want the ad spend to be fully spent, right? And then if it's fully spent and we're hitting our target on cost per lead, everybody's not always happy, but you don't hear from the franchisees.
You see the nuance here, guys? The nuance is you always have the franchisee's requirement to spend a certain amount on marketing, but then you pretty much always also have them giving you a little bit of the ad fund or marketing dollars, and then you invest it for them. He's just getting rid of that step, maybe increasing their spend, but also adding the level of, we have required vendors that you can spend it with, and that's it. Most of us have vendors that are required or maybe optional. He's got that. He just eliminated the step of the ad fund being disseminated by corporate, because you're always going to get the franchisee looking at that ad fund going, yeah, what's he doing with that? I don't think I got my money's worth. Where did it go? Well, it's got a sweet new car, etc., right? You're the rich gal or guy up in the lofty tower that has all the money, they think, when you could be struggling to survive and pay your bills. And so when I was a Z, I would go sleep on my own, Azor. I'd sleep on my Z's couches and help them do the most menial labor. And they still thought I was this mega rich guy. So they're always going to think the worst. Most people, it's natural. It's not just Z's. They think the worst situation oftentimes, a distrustful nature. And so he got rid of that. You're not touching any of their marketing dollars, but you are still directing them and, most importantly, holding them accountable. If you don't do that, a lot of us are super nice and we're like, oh, I'm sure you're doing it. No, extreme accountability every week, not monthly. You go 3 months, now it's too late. Every week, shoot, real time if you can, and maybe even incorporate the supplier that they're working with, that marketing partner in this case that they're working with, to add to that accountability, direct to the ZOR to tell who's spending what, when, how, etc. Paul, still around. Bring it on.
Still here. No, to Stephen's point, we did the identical thing. Yeah, we actually, especially in remote markets, you know, they just didn't feel like they were getting any bang for their buck from the brand fund. So we said, hey, listen, you know, you spend the 2 points. You just show us receipts, tell us what you're doing. You know, again, you know, to Red's point, you got to hold your feet to the fire. It's really important. But some, to be honest with you, it's been my personal opinion, they overspend. Like, they spend more than their 2 points. They spend like 3-4 points, you know, for the people that are really passionate about their brand. So without taking it too far down the marketing road right now, you know, and just talking more about like the subject matter, you know, the thing that's made us really unique and really special as a brand is, you know, I hear a lot of talk about, you know, dollars per lead, et cetera. Everything in our company, in our brand, has been completely organic. I think I might have mentioned that last year. So everything, all of our leads, we've never paid for a lead, not one. You know, so we pride ourselves on that. You know, people have great experiences, they come back. It's really a lot of people re-upping and adding stores to their original deals, or, you know, again, just, you know, just having a good reputation again. You know, we have a good reputation in the franchise community. People tell their friends about us, their friends jump on, and I'd have to say we're pretty rigid about, you know, who we bring on. You know, we've been very selective, and again, it's been a slow and steady approach. I think we could be probably double the size we are now in the 17 years we've been doing it, but, you know, we've just been, you know, careful about who we pick and the markets that we go into. We've made some mistakes. We went out to Cali, went out to Arizona, and we failed. And we kind of looked at ourselves and we said, hey, listen, what's the strategy? And we've decided that right now, the East Coast, there's tons of white space. The Midwest, there's tons of white space. Let's stay here. And when we've, you know, fully penetrated or, you know, penetrated those markets, then we could, you know, start to move west. And I think that's
Wow.
a good approach.
Never bought a lead for FranDev.
Never
You
once.
don't hear that much. And you touched on ad funds. So keep in mind, we all have minimum ad funds, but our ad fund percentages is typically how it is, 2%, 3% of gross, 5%, whatever that percentage. Starting out, you got no revenue, so how are you going to, you got to have a minimum ad fund. You can't just say it's 3% of your gross, because the first month you got no gross. So where do you go from there? How are you ever going to get gross? You're never going to. So start out with a minimum, and maybe it tiers up over time. Jonathan, looked like you got something on your mind.
I'll speak on that. So, well, our minimum ad fund is it's $150 or 3%, whichever is greater. And you know, we also, a thing that we did is we named our ad fund/technology. So that way you can spend it on technology or ad fund. And as we know the current state of things, we've got to be building our technology stack and integrating the best marketing partners out there. So technology is fundamental. Even if you're outsourcing marketing, I would encourage you guys to make your ad fund called ad fund/technology, so you can spend it on either or.
You know, we work with 600 or 700 Zors, 700 consultants, over 100 suppliers. So I'm talking to Zors every day. And I had one just call me a week or two ago. He's emerging. He's got, I think his number was 8 franchises. It's a low investment. It's home service, business services. It's big margins, and you do it right. And he's bootstrapping, man, like so many of us. And so many of us start with not enough, undercapitalized. I mean, heck, when I was starting out, I had the typical goals where, okay, each time you hit a goal, you got to reward yourself. That's Success 101. So when I sold my second one, I was going to get a new watch. Sell the third one, I was going to get a new car. Fourth one, another car. Man, by the time I had 20 sold on paper, I was going to have a big old boat and a plane and 2 houses. Man, I sold 148. I didn't even get a new watch. So, I mean, it takes a lot of money to do this franchise thing. Just be prepared for it. So this guy calls me up. He's a wonderful franchisor, best of intentions. He goes, hey, Red, you got anybody that can maybe invest 50 grand into my franchisor? I'm like, 50 grand, huh? What's up with that? And he goes, man, we're pretty tight. He's like, I really need some money. I'm about to run out. And I'm like, you got 8 Z's. He's like, yeah, you know, I get a couple more. Those royalties are starting to kick in. I'll be fine. I'm like, you ain't going to be fine, man. You need 500. I just know from this 1 minute conversation, you don't need 50, you need 500. And I'm like, you need it by 2 weeks from now? You're not going to get 50 in 2 weeks. I mean, he's just in trouble all over the place. He's like, what do? I said, you stop franchising immediately. You stop selling franchising. You stop doing any of that. You have got to go back to square one kindergarten here and redo your world. You're hurting lives. You're going to hurt yourself already. It was just a nightmare situation that he doesn't even know how bad it's about to be. Okay? Sorry, got on a little soapbox there. Whew. What else, guys? Let's jump back on either topic, really, but on the investment from outside sources, additional insights, guidance, words of wisdom for the crew. Johnny.
Yeah, something Sport Clips did early on was develop relationships with lenders. Their model is pretty economically advantageous compared to other salons. I mean, the hair salon's been around forever. And they could demonstrate, because they had the corporate store model and they had lots of franchisees with lots of good information, they were able to arrange for some, I would say, advantageous debt structure for franchisees to accelerate their growth. They didn't have to go out and find it. They had a pool, a deep pool of financing for franchisees. So they had to qualify, and there was a third party that was involved with it. Corporate guaranteed a piece of it. There was a certain risk factor that we decided to accept, but it was like pouring gas on the fire, and it really allowed the high performers to really grow like crazy. So it wasn't any equity. It was a structured, carefully organized debt arrangement that really made an impact. And I think it lasted about 3 or 4 years, till it ran out. But the momentum that it created was tremendous. And you get a franchisee to go from 1 or 2 up to 10 and 15, it's a whole new ball game operating that level.
We'd all rather have 500 franchises owned by 100 Zs than 500 franchises owned by 500 Zs. 100 is a lot better people to deal with. Every one of them is like a child. You got to, you love them, but you got to lead them. And so 100 is, you're talking about getting them to the ultimate validation, buy additional units after you've already opened the ones you have. Nothing better than that. Paul?
Yeah, no, I just thought it was important because I'm sure the room is filled with people who are either early on in franchising, have several units, maybe more, but I never got myself in the trap, and I said this earlier, but I think it's important. And I think Stephen might have made mention to it with the SBA loans, but before we even got into the SBA loans and we needed money, and we had maybe 6, 7, 8 stores, and we were looking for money, we had options with some people that wanted to, be equity people. They were going to inject a couple $100,000. It seemed attractive at the time, but we never bent to that, And what we did was we took out, I think we borrowed money from somebody in the tune of like $150,000, and they wanted 10% interest. You know what? It was still the better deal, because at the end of the day, it's still just my partner and I. So it seems a little wacky to pay that kind of interest, but when all is said and done, we sell the business. It's our money. So I think that's important to kind of stick to that and just think long term. I think Stephen might have made reference to the long game, or John or somebody, but you got to think long game. Definitely.
Don't you love watching Shark Tank? They talk this way all the time. It's fun. John.
My comment is debt goes first. You pay it back. I wouldn't use any equity if you haven't already used debt. Use your debt, capability, borrowing ability. Structure, know what you're committing to. They used debt very effectively, very carefully, but preserved all the equity. It made a big impact.
When you're setting your budgets, planning your financials, we heard some great numbers yesterday. Josh Wall led a terrific panel, and he shared a terrific fact, which is an FLDC, Franchise Leadership and Development Conference. They survey tons of awesome franchisors that are coming to that conference, and then they report the data. And he shared a real number that around $11,000 or $12,000 is the average amount of investment it takes when you're advertising to get a new Z. Wow, that's beautiful info. Put it in perspective. Who is the average FLDC attendee? It is not you, okay? And so the average FLDC attendee is a much larger brand. In fact, I would say 30 to 40% of the brands that attend that conference don't spend $1,000 to get a Z. They are a household name. And so those numbers are insanely skewed, and I pray no one in here thinks they, as an emerging brand with 0 or 5 locations, are gonna, without any viral something crazy, gonna do $11,000 and get new Z's left and right every time you do 11. It's a good 5 or 8 times that. I was Chief Development Officer of a global brand with 700 units in 30 countries for 30 years with great validation, low investment. I'm calling, texting, emailing. We got it going on. I was investing $50 a lead on portals. This is 10 years ago on portals, and spending $50 each, getting 100 a month. So that's 5,000 a month, 60,000 a year. And Rockstar Red closed one deal. I'm not so mad about the 60,000 as I am the 60 billion hours I spent following up with people who don't speak English, have no money, and thought they applied for a job. So this is related to the topic of growing wisely and not wasting money, time, and effort, and impacting the world here. Yes, sir.
Just a second what you said. Realistically, if somebody can do it for not 11 but 33,000, I would hire this company now. So if anyone can do it for 33,000,
just giving the money. Yeah.
Question for the group. People take finance to support their because there's financial stress when they grow initially. At what stage, system-wide revenue or unit-wide or timing does it get easier in terms of financial stress that, oh man, I can sleep at night at least?
When I had kids and I'm freaking out and just, pulling my last 3 hairs out of my head, and it was really hard raising children, right? And somebody at church or something said, Red, it doesn't get easier, it just gets different. And so the problems that Logan at Sport Clips are dealing with today, probably about as hard as they were when he had 10 units. They're just very, very different. And I can't imagine them. They got to be easier when you got a few million in the bank. But I can't relate. Any thoughts on that, guys? When does it get easier? Any thresholds?
I got a quick thought, but go ahead. Okay, yeah, I will tell you this, kind of the flip side of that, all hell breaks loose at 50 units. And I had a guy a long time ago tell me that that was from Blimpie. He was an area developer with Blimpie. And he said, Steve, I'm going to tell you, this is with Planet Beach, and we probably had 20 locations. So when you get to 50, all hell's going to break loose, and it did. And my advice for that is just know that you got to have an FAC in place on or before that 50th unit opens.
Franchise Advisory Council. I was about 20 years ago at IFA, and I sat in on a Bob Gappa for Management 2000 training session, and I remember him saying, guys, I've been in franchising 50 years or something crazy, and I've never met a franchisor one ever that got to 100 units that hadn't been sued. And I'm sitting in the audience at 98 units, and I hadn't been sued. I'm talking about sweat pouring off of me. No, I think he should have said Z, not franchise. There was multi-unit, wasn't as big back then, I guess, but he really meant I was at like 45 Zs, so it wasn't quite as stressful, but that was an interesting one related to that topic. We're almost out of time. Jonathan, did you have anything further on that?
I'm just going to agree with what he said. So it's never going to be like once I get to 10 or 50, that's what you think. You got to have these different goals. But just, I would say, be a mindset to embrace change and to put speed through systems, systemize everything as much as you can, because at each level, there's going to be a different set of problems. 100 is different than 150. 150 is different than 200. We're at 500. There's like sad things about it. I'm not as close to all the Z's as I used to be, but then there's other things. It's just a different thing, but it just creates different problems. So as long as you have the mindset that it's going to be different than what you think, but you have to embrace change and stay ahead of it a little bit.
Another open for another question. While we're looking for other questions, I'll throw out a tidbit too. We heard yesterday also that the working with brokers, and I didn't tell you what group I'm with. I'm not gonna, but working with brokers, I think Josh shared that the average cost to get a deal done was 25. I strongly disagree with that. That question was not asked properly, because working with brokers is the lowest financial risk out there, other than getting referrals from your internal staff. Why is that true? You're paying very little, relatively speaking, to work with the broker community. Now, you are paying a fat commission after the deal. That's after the deal. It's not to get to the deal. So the financial risk, the number one reason folks work with the consultants and broker groups are the highest caliber candidates out there that close faster and typically make more money for you and them, but even more so, the lowest financial risk to get them to become a Z, because you're paying minimal upfront to get them there. Then you're paying a fat commission after the deal closes. Questions? Bring it on, guys. We got some more wisdom to share. Who's got something on their heart?
Yeah, I guess I
Bring
was going to kind of follow on from Jonathan about structure and kind of addressing your question is, you know, when does it get easier? It doesn't, really. Well, when you're royalty self-sufficient, I mean that's ambitious. It's good, feels good, but all you're going to do is reinvest and redevelop and spend more to scale, to continue to scale. Sport Clips today is at almost 2,000 stores, and it's a different organization than it was 1,000 stores ago. But at where I sit at the board of directors, we're scaling for 5,000. Right? We're planning to have the infrastructure in place to continue to grow and grow and grow. So it's, I don't know if maybe that doesn't help you, but the idea is it's always evolving. It's a moving target.
You know, something that helped me kind of related to that is, regardless of your business, let's say I'm a carpet cleaner, I would tell my franchisees every single call, every conference, every time they talk to me, you are not a carpet cleaner that markets. You are a marketer that cleans carpet. You got to build a business. Nothing happens until somebody sold. And so really infusing that in my culture made a difference in their growth trajectory and their priority focus. Paul, being awful quiet, man, you have built an organization where you never bought a single lead, and you've awarded how many franchises? And how many Zs?
Geez, just this year alone, last year was a little light for us. It was like 25, and this year to date, it's 67.
67 new Zs?
New Zs.
New
Yeah,
Zs, not new
60
locations.
No, new Zs.
67.
67.
Dang.
Yeah, all organic through the website, through again word of mouth from other franchisees.
What do you give your Zs when they refer word of mouth to you?
A hug.
A hug. We heard yesterday some numbers that were much bigger than a hug.
No,
Okay.
we do. We take care of them in different ways.
That must be a good hug.
No, it's a great hug. No,
I could use a hug.
We do, yeah. Well, I'm right here. But we take good care of people. We're an organization that we do different things. I mean, some of it's a little off the cuff, but at the end of the day, no, that's our claim to fame. We've never paid for a lead. It's kind of mind blowing. So I think to myself, if we ever did, we could probably double our business. But we're content with the growth.
Well, who wouldn't be?
Yeah, I mean, it's enough as it is. It seems sometimes, So.
Now, HotWorks has not ever worked with the consultant broker groups, to my knowledge. Where do you have focused? I don't know. You've obviously bought leads or something, Stephen. Have you gotten two? How many locations? 600, 700?
We'll open the 700 this month.
Okay, how'd you get there? Briefly.
80% of our growth comes from, in terms of franchise locations, comes from customers who love the product. I would, the best advice I can give is just ensure that the teamwork and the relationship franchisor to franchisee is all about the customer, the end user. And if the end user, if you're focused on them being in a state of bliss, pay attention to the culture of the customer that you're building at your locations. Get that right so that you can then make sure that they stay happy. If that happens, then you're going to get your franchise growth from your customer base, right? So 80% of our growth has come through that route. Now we do give 10%, I believe it is, of the franchise fee to a franchisee who brings a lead that turns into a sale. If somebody just comes from a location without the assistance of a franchisee, they'll get we'll give a product credit for $1,000. So there's two ways that we compensate or incentivize our franchisees to help out with the development, and that has worked very well. But what works the best is to just ensure that your customers remain in a state of bliss, and you'll get people who want to open the franchise.
Little chicken in the egg there because you got to get customers first.
True.
You
True.
gotta-
That first location must be a home run. So, and the concept, I would say, think about that concept long and hard, cover every base. Go read the biography of Steve Jobs, so you'll know that every detail of your business matters. And once you feel that you've covered all those bases for a customer, and a customer can check off every single box of convenience for your industry, for that business that you're about to open, then open it. But not until then. And then you have to get the perfect location for that first location so you can have the home run, and then you got something to sell.
And getting as we wrap up, yes, sir. Right on. One more question after just a simple statement. You know, I'm not a Zor at the moment, but we're a supplier to the industry, and we did take outside investment. Princeton owns a majority of us, and it's been interesting to see because we were owner owned, you know, the founder owned forever, and he had owned a business previously, had a bunch of multi-unit locations, all corporately owned. He woke up one morning and his number one competitor had been bought by Amazon. That was a bad day, and it proceeded to be a very bad year, and he lost a ton because of that, and he had that fear always, what if, and so he loved not only to bring in some capital, take some chips off the table, as they say, but also bring in smarter people than he and I that can help support us and grow us to the next level, and not fleece us, but rather invest into us to help us do all those extra things we wanted to do, but maybe we're scared to do financially or didn't have the capital to do so, or the intellectual property to do so. So it can be a very good thing too. Don't just shy away from it. It's not like you're a loser if you take outside capital or outside investment. It can be a real blessing for you, your Z's, your customers, all the above. Ryan, what question do we have last? Yes, sir.
Yes. What are some of the best practices for using the brand development fund? And what's the difference between brand development and maybe advertising fund?
No difference that I know of. Brand fund, ad fund, marketing fund, all the same thing. It's in your FDD. It's in your agreement. Guys, some best practices around that. Jonathan?
I say for my industry, we focus mainly our brand fund on the low-hanging fruit. So it's going to be bottom funnel of marketing. So more expensive marketing is going to be middle funnel, top funnel, where you're creating brand awareness. Bottom funnel is when they're searching for a specific service. So if they're searching for infrared studio, maybe they're not searching for Howard's for infrared studio, that'd be low-hanging fruit. So you want to be paying for that, or carpet cleaning. They're already ready to use the service. You're not having to create the brand awareness that, hey, you need, advertising a commercial, hey, you need to do a hot studio, or you need to get your carpet cleaned. You're people that are already searching for that. So most of our ad fund we spend on really focusing on SEO, location pages, and then after you get that dialed in pretty good, then the next one would be CRO, so your website conversion rate optimization. So making sure the traffic that is getting to your site, you're converting it to jobs.
With that ad fund, you want it as transparent as humanly possible because those Z's are going to want to know where that money's going every second of the day. Make it live, real time, and you want to sleep better at night. Get the Franchise Advisory Council to make those ad fund investment decisions for you. They can't blame you on anything. It's their decision, their leadership's decision, not yours. My gosh, that's a better life. Guys, any final thoughts on that big question?
Yeah, I would slightly disagree with letting the franchisees make decisions on the ad fund. It's okay to have input and feedback, but I don't want them making decisions necessarily. Sport Clips spends an awful lot of money. It's a great big fund, and they do a great job with it. NASCAR, I mean, a lot of teams. They use a lot of partnerships, lots of partnerships. I was just in a meeting last week, and 10 years ago they had 15 organizations that they partner with. Today it's over 40. So lots of national partnerships all over the country. They have an outside agency. They have an outside PR firm that's paid through the ad fund. Significant dollars, and but with a plan and with accountability, lots of talent. Their marketing team is big and strong, and they're held accountable too. They are transparent with the ad fund. It's reported automatically to the whole system. So they don't have to ask, where'd that money go? they know where the money goes.
And the ad fund is not a vacuum in that it only benefits the Z, it also benefits the ZOR. And so the Zs are going to fight you on that sometimes in a polite, nice, friendly, family kind of fight. I mean, it's like, yeah, we put 100,000 in there this year, and I think you got a couple Zs off of that. Well, did I? I mean, those Zs help you, and they give more money to the ad fund. I mean, I can't help it if I got some Zs from your ad fund. So just get them extremely involved to making those ad fund influential decisions you can. Because, man, they like to fight over that and think you're doing everything selfishly every time. It's bizarre, but I guess it goes back to human nature. Paul, any final thoughts on ad fund dollars and best way to invest it?
No, I just think in this day and age, everything's digital. Everything lands on the phone. So, like SEO, retargeting, guest loyalty, we just pump a lot of money into digital. Obviously, we have DMAs or markets. We'll do stuff in certain markets, but it seems to always circle back to digital.
Best panel all week, huh? Good job. Thank you, guys.
Mic check. Thank you guys very much. On behalf of the whole Springboard crew, we want to thank you guys for coming out. That has concluded the conference. If anybody is going to still be here this evening, at 6:50, we're going to meet in the lobby, and we're going to, I should remember this off the top of my head, but give me just a second. We are going to Spasso Italian Grill, 6:50. Dinner reservation is at 6. If you could let myself or Lane know if you're joining, please do that. But thank you guys. Have a safe trip home. Cheers.